And there we are recording now, so apologies for that. I am on sharing sound, so that's all good. And I need to get back to my presentation. Right, so the last point here is please mail me for future topics. Anything along the lines of what I've mentioned earlier, something that's topical that you'd like me to share with you and do some research on. Once a month we do these webinars, so please contact me and propose topics that we can cover. At the start, I would like to remind you to please reflect on the content in terms of your life. Hold up that proverbial mirror and gauge how you're doing in life as far as the content is concerned, and rate yourself, and maybe, or not maybe, look for opportunities where you can close the gaps between where you currently are and where you would like to be as far as the content is concerned. This exercise we did just now, reminding all of us that we all are finding life not always, or very often, we're not finding life easy. And we have our challenges, and the issue is how do we deal with that, and how do we become more resilient in order to handle life's challenges. And having said that, I love this quote from Steve Maraboli where he says, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if I have to ask the question, who thinks life is getting easier, there will be some silence, I'm quite sure, because none of us think that it's getting easier. But the point is, we need to get stronger and more resilient. So the invitation that I sent out to you of the session reads, now I just want to focus on the middle part in red. We need to focus on empowering ourselves to become stronger and more resilient. And that's the issue. It's within our power to do that. And if we have to ask ourselves two questions, the first one I want to ask you to ask yourself, why should I become more resilient? I think that's kind of obvious. And we might have many answers to those. I need to handle life challenges better. I need to set an example for people around me, etc., etc., etc. Here's a more pertinent question, I think, though. How can I become more resilient? What does the how picture look like? And hopefully today I can share a couple of things with you that might assist you in exactly that. So if we look at the definition of resiliency, according to the Lexico Oxford Dictionary, it says the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. So that's all good and well to recover from. But what if you are still in the difficulty and toughness? So first we need to look at, and we need to figure out, how do we survive when times get hard? While you're battling through that process and to get to the other side successfully and in one piece. Well, I think it all starts, and I've touched on it a little bit earlier. It starts in my mind with using your gift of taking charge. Taking charge of your life, because the reality is we are much more in charge of our lives than we think we are. And as I did research for the session, I came across this picture. Take charge of your well-being, which is part of taking charge of your life. And you might ask me, Hekkie, how does that help? Let's just pick a couple of examples to answer that question. Connecting to others, second one from the left. If you have relationships that are not as great as they should be, that might carry you through the toughness that you're currently experiencing and assist in you becoming more resilient, that I would submit to something we are in charge of. Unless you agree, please, or if you disagree, please shout out. Nourishing yourself, living a healthy life. Let's move your body, and I can carry on. The reality is we are in charge. We are in charge of all these things to a very large extent, much more than we think we are. Randy Pausch, and I'm a big fan of his, bless his soul, he wrote this quote when he was terminally ill with pancreatic cancer. One of the people I look up to, you can order the book he wrote, The Last Lecture, which was his last lecture. He was an American professor at the university there. He knew he was going to die. But the way he lived the last part of his life and finishing so strong is one of the reasons why I look up to him as somebody that left a legacy of how I certainly would like to end my tenure, call it, on earth one day. Randy said, we cannot change the cards we are dealt with, just how we play the hand. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need to focus on. despite unemployment, despite the fact that Eskom, and we're talking about this ad nauseum, they can't keep the lights on, despite corrupt government officials and politicians that are not leading in an ethical manner, that are not leading sustainably to leave a legacy one day that people in generations to come can still talk about. Despite potholes, you guys in Cape Town are much more fortunate than we are up in Joburg. And potholes, reality is, truth being told, we get physical potholes, but also psychological potholes in our lives. So despite those things, we need to stay the course, and we need to focus on being resilient and becoming resilient. And what politicians do and whatever else people do around you, Marley, my dear wife, keeps on reminding me this. She says, you cannot control someone else's emotions and actions. You can only control your own emotions and your response to someone else's actions. So forget about, almost want to say all those things. Because if you can't influence it, why worry about it? If you can't change it, why stress about it? If you want to, I urge you to, the next time when you get a chance to vote, maybe we'll vote for another party, but that's frankly all you can do in a lot of these cases. So focus on yourself and focus on how you can become stronger and more resilient. And yes, it's a question of digging deep. Remember Billy Ocean, 1987? He wrote a song and he sang the song, and it was quite famous back then. I remember I was in high school. When the guy gets tough, the tough gets going. But it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as telling somebody, toughen up, man. Get stronger and just get through it. Get tough. Doesn't help us. And the big but is it's much more than that. And I think a big part of it is adopting a mindset of muddling through. Again, the Oxford Dictionary online says, muddle through means to cope in a more or less satisfactory way, despite the lack of expertise, planning, or equipment. Winston Churchill had this quote. He said, if you're going through hell, keep on going. Just say to yourself, I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to push through till I get to the other side. Trusting in God's plan. You have to. If you're an atheist, then trust in your own plan. But trust in the plan, and that the plan will work out like it should, and have faith in that. And adopt a mindset of saying, I will never give up. I won't, forget it. That picture illustrates the point quite nicely. I will never give up. And it's more than that. Don't play the victim game. We need to remind ourselves that we are not alone. We've got so many tools, techniques, and methods, and a lot of other things at our disposal to be able to work through these tough times. But we are certainly not a victim, because as soon as we adopt the victim persona, if I can call that, we are putting ourselves in a big way on the back foot. Dale Carnegie said way back, feeling sorry for yourself in your present condition is not only a waste of energy, but it's the worst habit you could possibly have. So our challenges as successful self-leaders in these tough times, ladies and gentlemen, is especially in these tough times to put away the whip. Back away the whip. Be kind to yourself, especially in tough times. Be your own best friend in whatever you do. And it might sound counterintuitive. I think another challenge is that in tough times, we need to try our best to convert problems into opportunities. And you look at people that go through tough times and they just get out on the other side much better. You get businesses through COVID. I mean, when we flew before COVID on a business level, I flew from Lanseria, I flew Mango and Kulula. Where are they today? Safeair was a small airline that just was a carrier of the Springboks. Look where they are today. And that's a question of turning adversity into opportunity. And you're going to say to me, but Hekkie, hang on. I just lost my job. But I might reply to you to say, listen, in 5 years' time, you might come back to me and say it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Okay, you might say, but let's look at a more serious example. I've got cancer. Well, what can you do about it? And moving a little bit away from yourself, but still related, isn't that a great opportunity in this time of illness to pick up the phone or drive to somebody and mend those relationships that for such a long time you neglected, and that you will ever feel sorry, feel regret or experience regret if you don't do something about it. I want to share you my story and showing, being a little bit vulnerable. In August 2011, my first marriage fell apart, more or less. At that time, I realized that there was no turning back. I felt like an utter failure. I felt like I failed my 2 boys, and it wasn't a great time in my life. And I told myself at that point, I had 3 options. I could end it all. You might be quite surprised, but once or twice that did cross my mind in that moment, in those moments. Fortunately, I didn't choose that option. I could choose the option of remaining the same, living the same kind of life post my divorce. And also, fortunately, I decided I'm not going to, because I realized also at that point in my life that I am in charge. I didn't choose that option. But I chose the option to do my best to finish strong. And whatever I do, to use this bruise, because failure is it's not a tattoo, it's a bruise. To use this bruise and to become stronger and live the rest of my life better than I would have ever lived it before. If you're stuck, if you're in a situation where you think, I'm not going to get out of this, rather do something than nothing, is what one of the CEOs of a company that I used to work for used to say. On that date, that was me. I was stuck. It was 2 weeks before I needed to present my research proposal to the doctoral committee at UJ, and I was stuck. I thought, I don't know where to go, and I'm not gonna do this actually. And Marley asked me, where are you going? I said, I'm going to get onto my bike. And that was my bike at that time. And I got onto my bike, I went for a long ride, and I came back and I walked into the kitchen, and she said, and I said, my reply to her was, I'm going to carry on. I'm feeling too serious about this, that it will add value, my research topic, etc. But the point is, in a very simplistic manner, I want to share with you that I understood then that we rather need to do something than nothing. If we're stuck, if we're going through a difficult patch, if times are tough. Stop it there, and just reflecting on the video, something that comes to mind and that I've seen there is abundance. Because very often we don't look back at what we have achieved in life, and certainly we don't recognize what we have in tough times. And just a reminder that sometimes we need to focus more on that, as opposed to sitting in a hole, the proverbial hole, and getting stuck in what we are experiencing at that point. The question I've got for you and me is, how do we deal with stress? And you might ask, but hang on, what does stress have to do with resiliency and getting through tough times? Well, it definitely helps. If our stress levels are low, we have certainly a larger chance of bouncing back than if our stress levels are very high. So what works for me is focusing on the zone of proximity. And that simply means using self-talk to tell myself, I'm not going to stress about the thing that potentially can happen. Muhammad Ali was a master in that. He would walk down the aisle to a fight. He would get through the ropes. He will sit on his stool in the corner before a fight, and he would smile at everybody and wave, because he understood that only in the zone of proximity we can get hurt. Only when he was at arm's length, literally, with a guy like whoever his opponent was, Forbes or whoever it was, then he knew you could get hurt. So he understood that don't focus all your energy on stressing for something that might never happen, to use the old expression. Charging my life batteries, spending time in the bush, doing motorcycling, doing open water swimming in a dam or a race, or just casually, that charges my life batteries. And then taking regular breaks. For the next couple of months, we as a family, and Marley and I, we're taking breaks. Doesn't need to be expensive. but it reduces my stress levels and allows me and equips me to be able to deal better, more with tough times. And having balance in life is so important. If you only focus 80 hours a week on work and you lose your job, you don't have any of the other areas in your life. And those are my areas in my life, by the way, on my balance wheel or wheel of life. You don't have anything else like a relationship with your spouse, with your partner, like a relationship with your kids. And I can carry on that might carry you through tough times, because then you're alone. It's important that we have balance in life. It's part of becoming more resilient. And accept that you are human. I came across this book as I was doing research for the session. How 22 extraordinary people persisted to beat the odds. And there are, almost want to say, thousands of examples of that. You see, fail means first attempt in learning. And although we can't erase our mistakes, we certainly need to focus on putting it behind us. We can't turn back the clock. Learn from your mistakes and move on. Is maybe simpler than said than done, but it's certainly something I think we can focus more on. I'm going to quickly touch on suicide rates. These are the latest suicide stats. We are number 10 on the list worldwide. Not a good stat. And I would submit that people commit suicide because they are not resilient. And there might be other causes like they are depressed, etc., etc. But I think a big part of that is that for whatever reason might be, they can't get through tough times and they're not as resilient as they potentially could be. And look at this, 4 times more men, and you can move up and down the list. It's prevalent in all countries. Men are much more prone to commit suicide than women. Why? Honestly, sorry, gents, I think women are stronger than men. I look at my household. I think I'm quite a strong guy psychologically, or physiologically, psychologically, and physically. But my wife she's far ahead of me. She just is. And I think the second thing is that men are not willing to be vulnerable and have discussions and open discussions to share their toughness, the toughness that they go through. So if I get back to this that I showed you earlier, using the gift of taking charge, and we're almost running out of time, I want to quickly touch on the fact, and I can say this because I used to be a smoker, okay? And I used to sometimes overindulge, don't anymore for a very long time, but small things like habits and taking charge of habits can have a massive impact on your ability to be resilient. And it's just food for thought, okay? If you're a smoker or drinker, don't hold me or don't hold me at ransom as far as that's concerned. But alcohol, a third of suicides have been linked to alcohol consumption. And as far as smoking is concerned, smoking appears to increase your risk of suicide, and there are the sources that I got it from. Just food for thought in terms of what you are in charge of as far as habits are concerned to make you more resilient. I'm finishing off, I'm closing off. 3 things to remember in tough times. Firstly, adopt a whatever it takes, push through it mindset. Secondly, remember that you're not alone. There's always people that will be willing to listen to you, assist you, get you through tough times. And it might sound corny, but if everything else fails, phone me. Okay. And the third thing is tomorrow's another day. We get blessed with the opportunity every single day after we've charged our life batteries to start off new. Each night when I go to sleep, I die, and the next morning when I wake up, I'm reborn, Gandhi said. And the importance of a good night's sleep and recharging your body and your mind and your soul, we must never underestimate. If this stuff interests you, I've write a book on it. Please register for our next webinars. I'm still looking for a topic for the 30 June one. Please share it or suggest it to me via email or WhatsApp or whatever the case might be, or phone me. Appreciate that. And it's the end, the time for questions. But before I get there, a question that somebody or anybody might be too scared to ask is, when should I see or seek counseling? And I'm saying to you, never be ashamed to seek counseling. I was at a church meeting last night, and one of the ladies afterwards spoke openly about the fact that she's seeing a therapist. And I think it's so wonderful compared to where we were a decade or more ago, or even a couple of years ago. It's okay. And if that is in the form of a clinical psychologist or a therapist or a psychiatrist even, that is great. That's fine. Whatever works for you. If you can't cope with it yourself, there's no shame in getting this kind of assistance and help to help you deal with the tough times you're going through. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to ask you if there's any questions. I know I'm on time, on the half an hour. If there's any questions, comments, criticism, I'm 53 years old. I love criticism because those are the school books that I learned from. So please go for it.
Hekkie.
Yes, go ahead.
That's a question. Thank you. No question, just a comment.
Yeah.
My comment being, thank you, Hekkie. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and sort of also highlighting some of the elements that could trigger. Just to share with the group that, I've been on that journey, not personally, I've been part of a journey with someone that's kind of gone on this, that's sort of had to face their, I draw it from the title of your book, Nemesis.
Yeah, yeah.
And, being part of that journey, one also learns a lot. But I certainly have also sort of extracted a lot of value from this session. And, I would like to engage you some more offline on this specific topic. Because I think being part of that journey, one can also be infected. And it's about, how does one kind of deal with these issues?
Yeah.
But you know what? Thanks. This was an awesome session.
Yeah. Thanks for your thanks. Appreciate it. And thanks for the comments. And just by the way, just to clarify, I'm not in another life, I could have been a psychologist, I suppose, but I'm not a trained clinical psychologist. I very much, and if I think somebody else needs to, get directed to some people that I do know, and I'm not saying you, Quentin, I'm just saying in general, then I will do that. I'm speaking from personal experience and what I think works, and what works for me, and share that with people around me. Anybody else?
Hi, it's Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer.
Oh,
hi.
sorry. Hi, just a quick comment. I do echo Quentin's sentiments, but something else that occurred to me is I attend these webinars for personal journey and improvement. But what I found is all the webinars I've attended actually help me with my own team, because when you have large teams, everyone goes to different things. You refer them to the wellness program, etc. So things like they're going to their own psychologist, the wellness programs, our leader support. And what stood out is trust in that journey, because everyone have different religions, faith, beliefs. So trust in their plan of action. And the other one about living your dreams and achieving your goals, things like that. It just makes it easier. It makes your one-on-ones robust and meaty. It adds the framework. So for me, it's not just, as I go along, I learned it's not just a personal improvement and journey. It's actually helped me in terms of the leadership to make my relationship or interaction with my guys more robust. And it's not, superficial kind of stuff. So thanks for that.
Jennifer, thank you. And thanks for those comments. I agree. When my boys were small, they're no longer small. We used to watch Barney, the dinosaur ad nauseum. And Barney used to say, sharing is caring. So as leaders, let's share what we learn to assist the people that report to us and just colleagues at work to assist them to make their journey better. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Somebody else wanted to ask something.
Yes, thank you, Hekkie, for sharing. I must say, in a short period of time, you really bundled up in 20 minutes, 25.
Thanks, Robert. Sorry, yeah.
And then I also want to say or add, we as observers of ourselves can observe, say, for an instance, see if there's a camera against the wall and look at yourself and listen to the language you use. Observe your emotions and your moods. Observe what is happening in your body. And even to have a mood emotions journal in your diary to see what is the triggers that give you some depression or a bad mood or whatever, and how you can prevent it. And And always, like you said before, is caring for other people and realize the gratitude you have. And according to that video, what do you still have left? It could have been worse. So being an observer of yourself and rely on other people. Don't stay quiet. Thank you, Hekkie.
Yeah, thanks, me. I appreciate it. And also that being part of your reflection, your time for reflection. And Mia and I, we operate in the same space. She's an ontological coach, so we focus on body, emotion, and language, just to give you some context as well. And absolutely, as opposed to saying I have to go to gym. No, I want to go to gym because I know it's good for me and the people around me. And just from a language point of view, absolutely focus on those things. Thanks, Mia. Les? Good to see you, Les.
Hi, thank you, Shane. Herbie's hand was up first. So
Herbie, sorry, I didn't see that. Herbie, sorry, go for it.
No problem, Shane. Thank you. Hekkie, thank you very much. It was a very, very informative session and extremely well put together. I think just something that I noticed, that a lot of the points that you brought up in terms of Jungian psychology, which is what I'm trained in, is that it seems that a lot of it works with the unconscious. And if we can, in a sense, baby or nurture our unconscious and ensure that our defenses are out the way, I think it allows for that free flow.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to actually embrace the journey, but maybe something we could explore a little bit further offline.
Yeah, it'll be good. If you can just make contact with me, I'll be keen to do that. That'll be great.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Agreed. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Thanks. Les?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to say two things. One, you mentioned that you're not a clinical psychologist. However, that doesn't matter because people relate to others who are human. So when you share your story, that makes you human to us, and that will allow us to take information from you. And then the other thing was, I really like your slide on take charge of your well-being with the little icons, because when I feel that things are amiss in my life and I'm not feeling so good, when I look at those little icons, it's generally when there's an imbalance in one of those. Yeah. So I either haven't been eating well for a few days, or I haven't been sleeping, and then eventually it gets to a point where you just feel like you're in a bad space.
Yeah.
So that is a really nice slide, and I'm definitely going to share that slide with everyone.
I'll email it to you right now.
Thank you.
Just to your point, Les, and thanks for that. I think you'll agree that life is simpler than we make it. We complicate life. It's like my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law walked into the lounge, and she said, "This jean is shrunk." And he said, "No, it's the chocolates that you put into your mouth that doesn't make it fit anymore." Okay, now it sounds crude, but the point is, there's consequences to what we do. And to your point, I haven't eaten my greens and my fruit, and I'm feeling not great, and I'm not energized. There's a reason for it. And if we understand that and we apply it, we've got the motivation, and we make the right choices, and we apply the required amount of discipline to follow through, then we'll just find that cheapest. All these transactional things in life, I almost want to call it, that we've been worrying about in the past, that's now below us. And I've got the opportunity to rise above that and to operate at a more strategic life point of view, to focus on the real important things in my life. And it just makes it so much easier. Yeah. Thanks, Les. Appreciate it. Thanks for that. Ewald. And sorry, Ewald, I'm way over.
Hi, Hekkie.
So if you guys need to leave, I fully understand that. So sorry for that. But please, let's carry on having good discussions.
Thank you. I'll be quick in any case. I also want to echo what Quentin raised earlier. What was shocking for me is the statistics in terms of suicide numbers.
Yeah.
And the fact that men has got a higher rate than ladies. Yeah. And yes, as much as I don't always want to say it, but women are stronger. That I definitely agree with that. Yeah. But I also think one of the biggest contributions is pride. Yeah. In terms of that on men's side. And sometimes on women's side, the misunderstanding of pride and the cognizance that it is there. I mean, I think, I don't know about you, but I think I struggled with pride quite some time. I'm not going to say that I'm the most humble person at this stage. I wish I was, but pride is a thing. Pride is a thing. And if you don't talk about it, open your heart like you did earlier, nobody's going to know where you are in life. And I just wanted to make that comment. I think pride is a huge contributor.
Yeah, thanks for that. I have to totally agree. And that prevents us from being vulnerable as men, because we're supposed to be we're supposed to be the head of the household, and we can't be, especially in different cultures in our country. I've been with it. I have to be perfect. I can't be weak, which is a lot of bull dust. I read one of the best books I ever wrote, and I refer to it in my book, is the book from it's a book called Finishing Strong. Okay, if you want to, I can forward it to you, because the author, for a second, his name I can't get to now, but he writes a lot about pride, and how that's a killer. But Finishing Strong is a great book. So just drop me your details again, and I will just get it through to you. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, good stuff. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying on. Much appreciated, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in a month's time for our next session, which is about living in the present. I think it was. And by the way, in the next week, it will be available on my website, today's session. But if you need it earlier, just give me a shout, and I will get it through to you. Yeah, the next session on the 19th of May is called "Don't Let Your Future or Your Past Be the Thief of Your Present." And that talks to exactly that, living in the present moment and making the best of that, and all the benefits that's related to that. I wish you all the best. Have a great weekend, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Hekkie.
Thanks,
Keep well, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.